Welcome back to Historical Crime Chronicles. If you're familiar with our channel, you know we usually delve into tales of mystery, murder, and mayhem from the past. However, today, we're taking a slight detour. While this story might not involve a traditional crime, the fate of our historical buildings often teeters on the edge of tragedy. The fact that these important pieces of our heritage are under threat, whether from neglect, decay, or even demolition, is in its own way criminal. From now on, alongside our historical crime stories, we'll also be highlighting historical buildings that are at risk. When we come across a building that needs saving, we'll bring its story to you, showcasing its importance and the efforts needed to preserve it. To keep things organized, we'll be creating a separate playlist on our channel for these videos, so you can easily find and follow these important tales of preservation. Today, we're shining a spotlight on one such building, 27 Queen Street in Derby. This unassuming structure hides a treasure trove of historical and scientific significance. Tucked away right around the corner from Derby's newly established Museum of Making, this hidden gem has been associated with remarkable figures, from the renowned painter Joseph Wright to the first royal astronomer John Flamsteed and the illustrious Smith clockworks family. Despite its storied past that spans over 350 years, this building has faced the grim prospect of being lost forever. Join us as we uncover the fascinating history of this iconic structure and explore the efforts to save it for future generations. Built in 1670, 27 Queen Street was the residence of John Flamsteed, the first Astronomer Royal. Flamsteed's groundbreaking work laid the foundation for modern astronomy, and this very building was where he made many of his early observations. Born in Denby in 1646, Flamsteed's passion for astronomy emerged early. He went to Derby Free School where he learnt Latin, which was essential for reading the scientific literature of the day. As a young boy, John taught his own father arithmetic and helped with the family business. His father had a malting business which must have been successful, because in 1670 he had enough money to build 27 Queen Street. 5 years later, John was ordained a deacon and was preparing to live his life in Derbyshire when his patron Jonas Moore invited him to London. At this time, the plans for the first observatory were being discussed, and John met with King Charles II, who realised that his talents stretched far beyond that of a deacon, and appointed him as the first English Astronomer Royal. John had the privilege of laying the foundation stone for the observatory being built at Greenwich, and after some time, John urged the Royal Society to use Derby as a meridian baseline. He suggested that the meridian line should pass through the back garden at 27 Queen Street. This was not adopted as the Society preferred the line to pass through a naval port, and Greenwich was chosen, which is why we have Greenwich Mean Time today. Even though most of his time was spent in London after gaining his new title, it shows just how much he still loved his home in Derby. In 1764, the house was acquired by John Whitehurst, a clockmaker, engineer and geologist who was one of the founding members of the Lunar Society of Birmingham. Whitehurst was a pioneer of modern geological science and is particularly known for making compasses, timers for pottery kilns and barometers, including devising his own scale for barometric pressure. He entertained several significant figures, including Benjamin Franklin, Dr. Erasmus Darwin, the grandfather of Charles Darwin, Josiah Wedgwood, and James Watt. Whitehurst and Benjamin Franklin were great friends for 20 years. Franklin often stayed with Whitehurst during his visits to Matlock and other areas in Derbyshire, as both men shared a passion for discovery and innovation. At Franklin's request, Whitehurst crafted a clock using fewer materials as some raw materials were in short supply in North America at the time. Whitehurst also gifted his friend a clock, which ticked away as Franklin signed the Declaration of Independence. Copies of the letters between the two men are preserved in the archives of the American Philosophical Society in Philadelphia. Whitehurst was a keen recorder of the weather and had a weather station in the garden where a century before Flamsteed would have had his telescope. John Whitehurst lived at 27 Queen Street until about 1774, when he moved to London to obtain a post at the Royal Mint. But before moving, he carried out a number of significant alterations to the building, including the installation of a Palladian facade and new staircase. This work was carried out by Joseph Pickford. Joseph Pickford was a sought-after architect of the time and worked with many, including the 5th Duke of Devonshire, to create the Chatsworth Inn, which is now the Chatsworth Estate Office. Pickford was not only friends with John Whitehurst, he was also friends with the building's next owner, Derby's most famous painter, Joseph Wright. Wright was constantly asked to do commission work in London, but he preferred to be in his hometown. He became an important painter of the English Enlightenment era and was known for his dramatic use of light and shadows. Wright often depicted themes of science and innovation, perhaps influenced by the scientific legacy of Flamsteed and Whitehurst. It is thought that Whitehurst was the model for Joseph Wright's famous painting of a philosopher lecturing on the orrery. During his time at 27 Queen Street, he reworked his piece The Alchemist and painted his final series of landscapes. Imagine the connections Wright might have felt to the history embedded within these walls. Maybe this became his inspiration, as towards the end of his life he didn't go out much and became a recluse. This is a sketch of the garden entrance from William Bemrose's book about the life and works of Joseph Wright of Derby, published in 1885. The garden was large, and in Wright's time it opened up into a cherry tree orchard. After Wright's death, the trees disappeared, and Orchard Street was built. After many years of alterations, this street has also disappeared, but the garden remains, and one day the friends of 27 Queen Street would like to bring back the beautiful trees. Joseph Wright died at the house in 1797 and was buried in St Alkmund's Church, Derby, in the family vault. However, when the church was demolished, the grave slab was moved a few times and eventually ended up in Derby Cathedral in 2002. The house became a post office for a while, and then in 1867 the building was acquired by John Smith, who was the apprentice of John Whitehurst's great-nephew. The Smith family were renowned for their precision and innovation in timekeeping, and famously built the clock at St Paul's Cathedral. Smith erected a clockwork shop in the garden, and for generations they contributed to Derby's industrial heritage. The business continued there until 2000, when it was sold to a developer. The new owner wanted to demolish the building and replace it with flats. This permission was granted on the condition that the flats were built around the original building. However, this didn't go ahead, leaving the future of the unlisted building uncertain. In 2009, 27 Queen Street was added to the buildings at risk register. Unfortunately, it has suffered from years of neglect, with its structural integrity now under serious threat. Despite this, the building still retains some of its charm. A neo-Georgian facade was added in 1929 after a road widening scheme removed the original frontage, but behind this, a lot of the original building still survives, including a couple of panelled rooms and an early staircase. Local groups and heritage organisations have rallied for years to save this building. After 5 attempts, 3 by the Derby Civic Society, and many people working together, including the Friends of 27 Queen Street, this special building, as of the 14th of November 2024, has thankfully been granted its Grade 2 listed status. It has finally been recognised as a very important building, and the Grade 2 listing will now secure it for years to come. The London property developer who owns the building said that they were not surprised by its new listed status and were looking at ideas to enhance and refurbish the building. They said that it deserves to be celebrated and protected. Restoring 27 Queen Street is about more than preserving bricks and mortar. It's about safeguarding a piece of Derby's identity and honouring the remarkable individuals who shaped its history. Its recent addition to the Grade 2 listed buildings register, though a triumph, is an overdue recognition of its value. Hopefully now we can ensure that this treasure is not lost to time, but continues to inspire for centuries to come. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another episode. Thank you for watching. See you next time.